Good evening, and welcome to what is going to be a very quick edition of the Talk Walk. There is a huge blizzard going on right now. I'm sure you can't see that much snow, but it's coming down relatively hard, and it's really windy. Yeah. In fact, Daisy just flat out refused to go out. As soon as I opened the door, she ran back in. I had to unleash her and let her back in. But obviously, Mistra will always be undeterred. She'll never let weather stop her. So still need to go take a walk. It's also going to be pretty quick. Well, not just because of the weather, but also because it's late and I have to drive my parents to the airport tomorrow. Well, this morning, we have to leave at 4 a.m., which is great considering, there's a baby in the house and all that. I'll try not to wake Felix up. Hopefully, that'll work out. But yeah, I'm not going to be sleeping a lot, let's say, so I need to make this quick. Anyway, it's so great to see some snow on the ground. I grew up on the south shore of Montreal in Canada, where I'm used to, trick-or-treating for Halloween in my snowsuit, right? I'm used to lots of snow. I love winter sports. I guess that's what I'll mention about myself for today. Really am a winter kid. Ever since, when I was really young, I started to skate, I believe around 3 years old. I was actually a pretty darn good hockey player, and I loved to play hockey. But unfortunately, when I was around maybe 11 years old-ish, maybe a little bit younger than that, or around that age, 11 or maybe even 12, I ended up having to give up hockey. Basically, long story short, I had to choose between two of my passions, which were hockey and karate. I was basically training to go to the world championships in karate at that point, so that ended up taking priority over playing, local or regional hockey, I guess. And so that's where I stopped playing hockey, and I then didn't skate for several years. But in the meantime, I started snowboarding, way before snowboarding was cool, as the kids say, right? I started snowboarding my first year of high school, which was winter 2000. Yeah, the winter of 2000. So technically, I started snowboarding last millennium. Not sure a lot of people can say that. But anyway, I spent more time on the ski slopes than people normally do at their job. In fact, it became a job for me. At 16 years old, I became a snowboard instructor. Oh yeah, by the way, when I was doing with snowboarding, if I didn't mention that. Oh yeah, of course I mentioned that. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to concentrate with the snow blinding in my eyes like that. It's weird, I don't think the camera actually sees it, but anyway. So anyway, I was a snowboard instructor. I was pretty good. I loved carving. Speed was my thing. More than jumping and park work, speeding and carving were were my passions. But unfortunately, just like hockey, I also stopped snowboarding, or at least regularly, to the point where I was an instructor the following year, because that's when I joined the military. And well, let's just say you can't really be a snowboard instructor at your local ski hill when you're in Kingston at RMC. So anyway, to close off that little info about me, I'll just say that although I have snowboarded and skated off and on over the years since then, that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most with Felix coming of age, is to getting back into those things and being able to share and teach him what I know about that. Miska, let's go this way. Yeah, we're taking a short one today. My face is completely soaked from all the snow landing on it and then melting. I can barely see. Whew. It's like it's pouring rain. Let's go, Miska. Okay, so anyway, there are several things I wanted to talk to today, but I don't think talk about today, but I don't think I'll have time to do that. Most of these topics. So, I was thinking, having spoken about, global warming yesterday, I might continue on that topic for a little bit, or something related to it. I saw the news a few days ago talk about current, basically statistics, and to not go into too far into the details, they were basically saying that 2023 was by far the hottest year in history, in recorded history, and according to what the scientists were saying, actually the hottest year since before civilization started, any civilization started. So that's not raising alarm bells. Well, considering that, the year before that was also record-breaking, and the year before that one was also record-breaking. So if that's not raising alarm bells, despite this snowstorm here. Oh yeah, I'm used to growing up where there's snow on the ground in October. Anyway, so even if there's snow here now, it's January. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Like, there should be way more snow than this here. Anyway, yeah, so if all of that is not raising alarm bells, the other thing that they said is that, the original target to mitigate the effects of global warming was an increase of no more than plus 1.5 degrees Celsius. Last year was recorded at plus 1.4 degrees Celsius. So, we're already there. Because for sure that people are not gonna suddenly stop polluting tomorrow because we hit January 2024, right? So I fear that oh shit, Lisa, let's go this way. Come go Oh, there's not usually other people at this time, huh, Mista? Usually we're alone. Huh. Woo! That was close. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, I fear that it's too late. We're past that point of no return. And now we need to get into the next mode of thought, because it's kind of been demonstrated now that humans are not willing to adapt, because they'd rather be idiots like that guy Don't get me wrong, I get it. I've done that as a young 16-year-old when I had just gotten my license. At least he's doing it in a parking lot that's empty. But still, so wasteful. Do that with an electric car. No, just kidding. Yeah, so now, anyway, where I guess I was going with that is, as you can see, we're already at the edge. There's no way we can stop the train in time to not go over the edge. So now I feel like people who are smart will start to act accordingly, and buy up maybe property further up north, or like start to secure more resources or commodities, that type of stuff. Maybe the era of the mega cities and everyone wanting to live downtown and everyone wanting to live in LA and this and that and Tokyo and on the coastlines, that might not be over quite yet, but if you care about not just yourself but also your future, your children and all that, it might be time to start to orient your legacy a bit in different places, let's say, that are a bit more off the beaten path, or the current beaten path. Anyway, yeah, so that's a little bit about global warming, and that had, I guess, since I have a little bit more time before I get home, that had gotten me to think a bit more about mathematics and how mathematics is useful even if you might not think that it is. I know I often refer to Asmongold because I've been watching a lot of his videos recently. I find that I actually agree with so many of his points, not most of his points, but there's some things that I can tell that he is clearly an American, because as he has admitted many times himself, he doesn't care about whatever that happens outside of America, right? Like, fuck them, they're not in the US, right? Sucks to be them. But anyway, other than that, I do agree with a lot of his points, but one of the things that he says is he doesn't think that maths are very useful, or that it's that useful to learn maths. And I do agree that not everyone needs to learn calculus, but fractions are useful, man. Being able to do basic mental math is useful, and more importantly, I don't care if you don't know, how to divide by 7 and know off the top of your head how to figure out what percentage, 5/7 is. It's like set. So it would probably, I believe it would be 57. I get the it's like 57.14%, probably. Anyway, don't quote me on that, but hey, look it up. I might be right. Anyway, what I do think is useful about math is understanding certain principles, I'll say, that people tend to not. And two examples of that, I think, are exponential growth. So I guess I'll start with that one. And the other one that I think is important to know is compound interest, or compound growth. Actually, compound growth is a little bit easier, so I'll start with that. It's called the rule of 72. That's the only thing you need to remember. And what it means is that for whatever growth rate you have, whatever interest rate, right? Let's say we're talking about money, but it could be, the number of chicken eggs that your chickens hatch, or whatever, by number. Anyway, like, it can be applied to so many different things. That wasn't necessarily the best example, but any place where let's use money. So let's say you have a 5% interest rate on the money, or your 5% growth on the stocks that you have in the bank, or you have a 5% interest rate on your line of credit. Well, to figure out if you don't do anything, you don't touch anything, to figure out how long it will take for that amount to double, all you need to do is divide the interest rate by 72. Or sorry, the opposite. So what that means is, let's say you've got 6% interest. Well, 72 divided by 6 is 12. So what that means is that if you don't do anything, after 12 years, your money will have doubled, or whatever you own will have doubled. So if you had $100, you'll now owe 200, or you will have 200. If you had $10,000, you'll now have 20, or owe 20,000 after 12 years. So if, let's say, you got a higher interest rate, well then, to flip those numbers around, let's say you have a 12% interest rate, well then it'll only take 6 years, right, for things to double. But what most people don't get, and other examples, let's say it's 4, well then, that was almost a disaster. Or sorry, let's say you got a 3% interest rate, well then, that'll be 24, right? So in 24 years it'll double. Anyway, you get the point. What most people fail to realize is the growth of that, or the effect that has. So let's say you've got someone who's got their money invested at 4%, or 3%, sorry, or let's say wages rise 3% per year. Okay, well that means that for doing the exact same job, 24 years later, you're gonna make twice as much as what your father did, or what you did. That's not taking into account, any increases from experience and all that stuff, right? Just going by the pure math of it. So in 24 years, your salary will double. But, let's say, on the other hand, you've got the 12% interest rate, or 12% growth on the housing market, for example, to take a completely random example that's not happening right now in Canada. Anyway, 3%, 12%, those are within the quote-unquote acceptable ranges that most people would put, returns in general for investments and money and stuff, right? That sounds reasonable. Well, what people fail to realize, and the point I wanted to get to, is that, at 12%, your money, or the cost of your house, or whatever it is, doubles every 6 years, right? But it's that entire amount that double. So that compounds itself, right? What I mean by that is, yes, after 6 years, it will have double. So, the $100 house will now be worth $200. But 6 years later, it's that amount that has doubled. So now the $200 house will be worth $400. So after 12 years, you've actually quadrupled from your original amount. And then you fast forward that another 6 years, doubles again. So now your quadrupling of the original amount becomes an octupling times 8. And then you fast forward the final 6 years to bring you to a total of 24 years. And now you have times 16 the price of the house, right? So the $100 house, or more like the $100,000 house, will now be worth $1.6 million, right? But in the meantime, your $50,000 wage, if let's say you make a lot of money, will only have doubled to 100,000, right? Ah, shit. Let's go, Mr. Fuck, I'll go. Okay, Mr. Why are there other people out on the one day that there's a snowstorm? Okay. Sorry, Misa goes crazy when she sees other dogs. Yeah. So anyway, what that means is that in that 24-year span, your parents or the previous generation octupled their buying power relatively to yours, right? Because you doubled, or the wage that you earn will have doubled, while the value or the price of their house will have times 16. So you wonder why no one can afford a house in Canada. Anyway, pardon my language there, but yeah. So I think that's something that's very important for people to understand, compound interest and how it works, because of what seems like a small difference, from 3% to 12%, over a single doubling period creates a huge wealth gap, I'll say, because it's not necessarily just applicable to money, right? But that's the main thing that people need to understand where it applies. So yeah, and that's 24 years, right? So you fast forward that another 24 years, and then you'll double that times 8 again. So hey, maybe my math might be wrong. I might be off by 1 power of 2 there, but quick math with the snow in my face means that 8 times 8, right? You square it, so the house owner's wealth will have times 64'd the growth of the wage of the worker, or the wealth of the person who has access to the good investment broker who does earn him a 12% return, as opposed to the person who don't have access to that and have to invest in GICs or low interest vehicles, because they're told by their advisors, if they have any, that it's quote unquote safer, right? So anyway, that's just one example of why I think it's important to understand math. And the other example I was mentioning was exponential growth. Luckily, I kind of already touched on it. So, as I was already, while talking about compound interest, because everything that I said there applies to any exponential growth, right? And the shocking example for that is, let's say you have a petri dish. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter. Imagine you've got a plate, and in it you've got a culture of bacteria, and every minute the bacteria, they split and they double, right? How long do you think it's gonna take, if it takes them an hour to fill up the entire plate? How long does it take them to fill up half the plate? Just think about it for a second, and what's your honest answer? I bet that most people will not answer 59 minutes, but that's the truth. And you think about it, if it doubles, right? If every single bacteria splits every minute, that means that the space doubles every minute. So for it to be full at minute 60, it means that it has to be half full at minute 59, and a quarter full at minute 58, and 1/8 full at minute 57, etc. So where this becomes important is when we talk about global warming and stuff. And to make the point very quickly, because I'm cold, out of the entire hour, you've reached minute 57, and you're still only 1/8 of the plate full. How many people do you think are panicking at minute 57? How about at minute 58 when you're 25%? Right? What I'm trying to get at is that by the time most people realize what's going on, by the time most people realize how badly we screwed the planet, we're already going to be at past minute 59, and we are going to be screwed. So, again, act accordingly. And on that grim note, and stop finding that stick, have a good evening, folks.